Warning, this podcast typically features spoilers and strong opinions. Proceed with caution. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Two Grooms, One Plot, the podcast where two lifelong storytellers who are married to each other talk about stories. Mm-hmm. I'm Pavi Prochko, audiobook narrator, author, performer, etc.
And I am Colin Funk, a childhood development expert and teaching artist.
And today we are going to be talking about Death Becomes Her, the musical. This is a pre-Broadway run here in Chicago, and we went to go see it. And I'm really excited about this one. It's super fun. But first, let's talk about our moment of the week.
That's it.
Okay. I'll go first. We've been watching Palm Royale on Apple TV, starring Kristen Wiig and Ricky Martin and Allison Janney and Carol Burnett. Oh, I forgot to say too, for those of you who aren't watching, we have a special guest in the studio today.
Yeah.
Yes, we have our special little friend Jimothy's here, a little puppy. So if you hear some whining or woofs or something, it's probably him, but he's been pretty quiet so far.
Maybe Pavi too.
It might be me.
Hey.
So everyone say hello, Jimothy. Hello, Jimothy. Okay. Anyway, all right, Palm Royale. And I think it must have just been the season finale.
I think it was.
And very dramatic. It's like, there's like, what a wild show.
Yeah, the whole series.
The whole series is pretty, it's pretty dramatic and fun and funny and interesting. Kristen Wiig plays the lead, and I think she's been doing a great job. In this last episode, though, she has a moment where kind of everything kind of falls apart around her while she's hosting.
I know we do say
the
like
beach
spoilers.
Yeah,
usually,
I don't want to.
like,
I don't want to spoil too much. Just
like,
to
watch
say,
the whole series. It's so good.
Yes, it's so good, but in this moment is like a really powerful acting moment. As she's like performing the song in front of everyone, because the whole time she's trying to she's putting on these airs to like be part of society here in Palm Beach. She's playing a part, and she lets it drop, and she just grounds herself, and it's really good. It's like seeing someone struggle. That's what it's like. You're watching someone struggling with the emotions.
Right. Well, and because she's struggling with the emotions, the facade is dropped.
Yeah.
In that moment. And I thought
it's really excellent. So highly recommended. You have to watch the rest of it to get there, though. Otherwise it doesn't mean anything, but it's
worth it. It
totally really is worth it. It's really fun.
Really great.
Yeah. I like it so far. Yeah, that's my moment.
Great. So I just got back from New York. Mm-hmm. So fancy. So I saw a few shows while I was there. I saw Little Shop with Jinx Monsoon and Corbin Bleu, both excellent. I saw Merrily We Roll Along, which is done well, but I'm not in love with that show. And then I saw an opera adaptation of The Hours, which was, as if anyone's listened to our episode on Carmen, know that I'm not the hugest of opera fans. But I thought The Hours was an interesting choice for an adaptation into opera, because it's like kind of long and slow. I've never actually seen the movie, to be fair. But what I've heard that is long and slow. And, one of the characters is Virginia Woolf. So I think like it is kind of thematically kind of poetic. He's wrapped around the leg of the chair. Oh. I don't know if you, so like this kind of like long, this like big expanse of like space in the story, along with this kind of like over poeticized mood, I guess, vibe that the movie had, it translates to opera really well. It was
very
kind of
literary,
slow to start. Yeah. But more than that, not just like it's kind of like outside. It's not just like, I don't know. It's poetic, you know. It's imagery.
It's not
like
in
really,
realism.
It's not in realism. Yes. Yeah. And because it's like moving from time to time. And I guess like my moment, I wasn't sure what I was going to pick until I went through, but I think The Hours was the most interesting. I mean, loved Little Shop, and I might just like steal a moment next time. But but something about The Hours felt new and interesting to me. I've seen Little Shop before. I know all the words to all the music. The Hours was something interesting and something that kind of like honestly opened my mind about like what an opera could be, because I don't love just like the medium.
Right.
I just get bored.
Yeah.
A lot of the older operas are boring. They're just boring.
True.
They're not meant for today's audiences. And I fit there where I'm like, yeah, your voice is great. And I know this is just to celebrate your voice and just like listen to you sing in a beautiful language with beautiful music. But my ADHD brain is like, okay, I don't know this language and you've just repeated the same thing. This is maybe the third time you're doing the same thing over and over again. And it's just so long and I don't love it.
Yeah.
Because I want there to be more story.
Yeah.
Generally. And opera is not story forward a lot usually, of the time.
Yeah.
The story's there, but as kind of a setting for this beautiful music.
Right. And we've been talking recently about how what constitutes an opera versus a musical, and kind of falling on the side of that. I definitely fall on the side of they're just the same. Yeah, that's my art form. They're the same medium. And
my theory is musicals and operas aren't a separate medium.
Yeah.
Completely. Like it's like they're different styles of the same medium.
Right.
Just like, like Rock of Ages is not closer to Oklahoma than Oklahoma is to any other opera.
Right. Right.
Oklahoma is an opera.
It's very, yes, it's an opera. It's just
got a whole dream ballet sequence. I mean, it has a full, it's an opera.
Yeah. And it's like, how do you delineate between them? So all that to say that new operas and new musical, they just fall within the same domain in the same world. And so I don't see why you can't update how you tell stories with opera. Because
we were talking about it. I'm like, how do we modernize operas in all the ways that I could think to modernize operas? I'm like, I'm just turning it into a musical.
Yeah, because that's what it is.
Talking, different vocal styles. Yeah.
But that also happens in opera or in operas, right? It's like we talked about it in our Carmen episode. Link back. But it's very much like a musical, Carmen is. It's like it has a script and it's really emotional and it's driven by the story. And
obviously musical theater grew out of opera. So it's they're not even unrelated.
Right.
But I think they're just the same thing.
They're just the same thing. And right. And so when you have these composers these days that are creating new operas, it makes total sense that it would appear as a musical, and it's really just about what connections you have and where can you get it put up and who can you get to sing it.
Right.
And that's how you call it an opera.
I also forgot that Philip Glass did the movie score.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, it's not Philip Glass who did the opera score, but Philip Glass does write operas.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, great. Because they clearly use some of the style,
Interesting.
some of the themes, I think. Because I remember the theme of because it was because I remember I'm like, I feel like I know the music, but I don't know the show. And I'm like, I remember it was a very innovative
it's very Philip Glass
score. That was the thing.
It's his most conventional score.
Right.
Because he had to do it for film and it's still very Philip Glass, but.
Very interesting though. The themes, it just works with, it made sense. But there's a moment there, because they have moments of overlapping where because there's three women that are living in different time periods. Mm-hmm. There's and there's like things that connect them in different ways. And it's an interesting story. I actually think it's a very interesting, like the story itself is very interesting and the way they overlap them. I wasn't sure because I'd heard it's like, oh, it's kind of like heady and I think it's probably, the movie probably reads pretentious and you know.
Yeah.
Which like sometimes I'm like, yeah, if it's too pretentious, I'm not really a big fan. But anyway, but I don't think that the opera at least didn't feel like that, even though opera, I don't know, it felt like the right medium for it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Or some of that pretentiousness is kind of built in where I'm like, okay, you don't need to do it like that, but like, I get it in this context.
Yeah.
Like big chorus moments. I'm like, but they set up the chorus well to be this like, it's almost like a Greek chorus. It's almost like this is society, but also like their outer world and their inner world. Interesting things. But they get through the whole show, and at the end of the show, they just like straight up have the three women sing together. And it's just very exciting.
Wow.
And it's like powerful after like you watch all these things and there's things that like connect them, and there's things that like connect the stories and or mirror each other or but like just straight up be like, no, and now they're together and now they're singing. And it's I thought I would have said that was a bad choice if someone had told me that that's what it was.
Yeah.
But because they just set the conventions, I didn't mind, and I thought it was lovely. And they sound beautiful. I mean, it was Kelly O'Hara, Renee Fleming, and Joyce DiDonato. Like,
wow.
That's the reason I went to see it, because I'm like, I don't like operas, but like,
but if you hear those names, you're just like, okay, I got to go see that. Yeah.
They were incredible. They were fantastic. Hearing them all sing together is just like wild to me.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm jealous.
Mean, I'm sad I didn't
get to see it.
I love a trio of women singing.
It's true. Yes.
It's like
Andrew Lloyd Webber, Little Shop, Andrew Lloyd Webber Love Trio.
Yeah. Love
Nice.
all of it. So that's my moment.
Great. Very exciting. That's really unique.
Yeah.
I'm sad I didn't get to see it. All right.
I mean, as soon as they record those things, I feel like
maybe I'll be able to get
they might
some kind of
stream
bootleg.
it too.
That'd be fun.
They do, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
The Metropolitan Opera sometimes.
Yeah, they do.
Has like film releases.
Yeah. That'd be Fathom Entertainment.
Yeah. That'd be an interesting one to
interesting
to see.
Cool.
I would talk about that too if we went to see it.
Excellent.
And with the movie, I'm interested. I haven't seen the movie yet.
I haven't seen it either.
Anyway, speaking of something that's both a movie and a stage show,
let's get to let's
talk
get
about
to our
Death Becomes Her.
Death Becomes Her.
We'll do
the
our
musical
switch hit synopsis.
Switch hit synopsis. So takes place over several years.
Yeah, it says with the setting that it says in the playbill is before, now, and beyond, or something like that. It's like something like it's who knows. It's kind of in and out of time. Like that.
Yeah,
time is not. Well, I mean, it's like part of
the thing, right?
The thing.
So
it spans a bit of time,
right? So you have Madeline and Helen are old friends, and Helen introduces Madeline, who is like doing her Broadway show,
big Broadway
star, to her fiance, Ernest, a plastic surgeon, and you've learned that Madeline is like very vain and like all about her looks and appearance, and has gotten fixed. And then Helen is an author, an aspiring author, is maybe a little bit less successful.
So like happy to flaunt this relationship in front of Madeline.
Yes.
And
because she's like winning.
She's winning. So there's clearly like some rivalry between them. And Madeline promptly steals Ernest from her.
Right.
And we go right to them, Madeline and Ernest getting married.
Right.
So from Helen and Ernest being engaged straight to Madeline and Ernest getting married.
And it kind of makes Helen lose her mind.
Helen loses it. She goes into a mental institution.
Yep. Then 10 years later.
Madeline and Ernest are clearly, unhappy.
Yeah, but
Madeline's
they're
like,
wealthy, live in a big mansion.
they're like, she's like feeling the, you know, the aging actress, not getting work.
Yeah.
Feeling like her looks are slipping away from her.
Right.
And
She gets an invitation.
Helen is back in the
Out
world.
of the institution, and she has written a book, and she has a launch party.
She has a launch party. They show up. They
Yep,
go.
They do.
And she's looking great.
Yes, she is gorgeous. She looks young, and you know the book is about her life, I think, but it's like kind of Anyway, and so she's like, oh, I'm you know, she has ostensibly gotten a lot of work done or done a lot of working out or
Essentially,
dieting.
like
She
Helen
looks great.
is now
And
on the move to steal Ernest back.
Yes. Meanwhile, while she's there, Madeline gets an invitation from someone at the party.
Another invitation.
Because she's looking a little old.
Yes.
And so this mysterious stranger gives her a card to go visit Viola Van Horn.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
That perhaps can help her.
And she goes.
Yes.
And Viola Van Horn gives her a potion that gives her youth back.
Yes.
And youth and beauty back. And she'll keep that youth and beauty forever.
She's got 10 years that she can be like beautiful and have a stellar career, and then she's going to have to disappear.
But she has to take care of her body.
Yes. Must take care of her body because it's the only one she's going to have.
Mm-hmm. We see Helen pursuing Ernest, and
They're planning to murder
they plan
Madeline.
to murder Madeline so they can run away together.
Yes.
And Madeline shows up, and they get into a little
altercation during which Helen pushes her down the stairs. And ostensibly killing Madeline as she falls down these stairs.
And as Helen and Ernest are celebrating, they're like, okay, this is even better.
Yes.
It's like an accident.
We're gonna figure this out. Madeline gets back up.
Madeline gets back up and her neck is twisted all the way around.
Yes. And she is totally dead, but still alive.
Yes.
So
they find out, they go to the doctor, find out that she is dead but alive.
yeah, no one
And-
really does anything. So they take her back home, where Madeline then takes revenge and shoots Helen with a shotgun, getting a huge hole in her belly. And she also doesn't die. So she has also taken this potion.
The potion, yes.
So they are now both dead, and this plastic surgeon is like stuck between them, and
they're like, okay, we need you, plastic surgeon, to just fix this up.
Yeah.
We're going to live forever, and we need you to fix this up.
And he says, you know what, I'll do this one time, but I should have left a long time ago. So I'll do this for you, and I'll fix you up and get you to look good, and then I'm out, and I don't want you to follow me and chase me. They say,
like, fine,
okay, but then
after they get fixed up, realize like, oh, if they need a touch up or if they need to get fixed in some other way, that they're going to need him in the future. So they decide to drug him, bring him to Viola Van Horn, and get him to drink the potion so he will live forever, so he can always
take care of them,
cater to them.
Yes. Well, they knock him out, and all of that happens, and he ends up declining the potion, choosing to live a natural life, because who wants to live forever?
He gets pushed off a roof.
And then he gets pushed off the roof. Cut to 50 years later.
They're visiting their own graves.
Yes, because they have faked their own deaths. So they're visiting their own graves and like putting flowers on and
cleaning them up so that people think they're presentable.
Yeah. And then run into Ernest.
Old man Ernest.
Who is
50 years
aged and is now happily married.
What's up, boy?
And they kind of have a little resolution, kind of come to Jesus moment where they like talk about kind of their lives and where they are, and he is like very happy, very pleased with
growing old,
and he and his wife have just put their final payment down on their plot at the cemetery.
Their grave plots, yeah.
And Madeline and Helen, as always, the cynical immortals, I guess, at this point, who look like, crazy clowns, boo him off the stage, basically, and go off to...
They're like, I wish this could end, but
bittersweet.
We don't get a finale, so bye.
Yeah, that's kind of a semi-happily kind of go off into the sunset together.
Yeah. Because they're each other's person.
Because they are each other's person.
Yeah.
Which is funny. And that's how it ends.
Yeah. So this is an adaptation.
Yes.
As I hope most people know.
I would hope so, because this movie is one of my favorites. I love it.
It's amazing. The movie is great. Starring Meryl Streep.
And Goldie Hawn and Bruce Willis. And
Isabella Rossellini. Great cast.
Oh my gosh.
All of them fantastic.
So good.
And just at like an 11 in terms of like drama. And
yes.
It's over the top.
It's way over the top.
Cult camp classic.
Yes.
It is incredible.
And that said, I think the overall, the musical that we watched in the best way tops it. Like it has to, they upped the ante.
Yes.
As far as the drama and the
camp
and the
humor
and what a smart idea.
Yes.
Because it's, with a movie like that, you really have to pull out all the stops, because it's like, it's just, so they're like self-referential about the movie and about the fans of the movie. Mm-hmm. Fascinating. And we should get into some detail.
Yes. Okay. So this is a very interesting study on how to make a good adaptation.
Yeah.
Or one that gives enough reverence to the original source material without feeling like a copy.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do.
It's really hard.
Beetlejuice kind of did it, but it was a kind of a different story almost altogether.
Yeah.
And something that is different in Death Becomes Her, even than in Beetlejuice, is that it streamlines the story instead of adding things.
It doesn't expand it. It makes it simpler. Yeah.
Which I think is brilliant.
And it's really, really nicely streamlined.
Yes. They pick really great elements to just be like, no, that's actually, like in the movie, he was a plastic surgeon, and then he was reconstructing.
He becomes a morgue or a mortician or something.
Surgically, he reconstructs like dead people, and so like for presentations for viewing and so kind of like a bigger version of like a morgue makeup artist. He's like, I'll fix their wounds, so they're whatever.
Yeah.
But like that in that he finds. He's already working on dead bodies at that point. So he knows that like spray paint works on dead bodies.
Right.
But instead of like doing that, he was like, they just like streamlined it to like, he was a plastic surgeon. He just like got more, like his clientele became more vapid instead of, he's not helping people. It's like, just like it. But
to create that parallel between him and Viola Van Horn, where it's like, because they really nail that home, where it's like, well, is this potion any different really than what you are doing as a plastic surgeon?
Right.
After having fixed cleft palates and helping people in Guam with their wounds and burn victims, you're now just like fixing, the necks of aging actresses.
Right. But it's just like things
but they
like
really
that,
do,
that are, they're different technically.
Yeah.
But they don't change the story. They just they made it easier to tell the story without moving as much.
Yeah.
It's like there was less steps between this and this.
Right. Well, it gives him a moment it's a smart way to give him a discovery moment, because rather than in the movie, you start with Bruce Willis, Ernest, knowing, you know, he's like asked, he's like, oh my God, you did my aunt for her funeral and she looked so good. What's your secret? And he says, well, you use spray paint. And this is like right at the beginning of the movie, where here he actually has a song where he has to kind of like, he has to figure it out. He has to concoct how to do it. And so it gives him a little bit of a through line too, where he's like, well, now this is kind of like, how do I succeed in making them look beautiful so I can get out of here,
right?
And really gives him some motivation and some activity.
Well, and inversely, like there's the sequence of events when like Helen is like convincing Ernest, like spending time with him, convincing him to leave her. Like it was like there was a whole. It just like they smushed it all. Where it's like Helen shows up at his place.
Yes.
That's where they have their like, okay, yes, we should be together. That's now what we're doing. And instead of like going away and then having a phone call where they make a plan.
Right.
And
because
then they do this, and then
in the
later.
movie, he pushes Madeline down
there.
this. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
So.
Because that's about the phone call.
I know. But it'll get there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like they're making the plan to kill her.
Yeah.
And then during the plan in the movie, he ends up pushing down the stairs, and then then Helen shows up after that.
Yeah.
But then instead of like having her leave and come back and leave and come back and have like 3 little scenes, like in a movie, it's fine. Jump cuts, fine.
Right.
But in a stage show, like it's all the same scene.
Right. Yeah.
It is all the same scene in the movie too.
Right. It just happens to be across a certain amount of time and certain locations and distances.
But since she was there,
just do it there.
Helen was there the whole time. She doesn't leave.
Right.
She's part of the altercation with Madeline.
Yeah.
And she gets to, they get to, while Helen in the movie is the person who like made it happen. Like she was the reason Madeline gets pushed down the stairs, but she isn't ultimately the person who pushed her down the stairs.
Right.
I think it's a really smart choice to be like, this movie's about these 2 women.
Right.
It's not really about him.
Yeah. And it gives him I think it like paints him as a little bit better of a person.
Sure.
In the movie, he literally kills her.
Yeah.
She just happens to not be dead. In here, it's like, oh no, he's actually kind of innocent.
He is
in the
kind
end.
of innocent. Yeah.
Yeah. Just cowardly and trying to like get his backbone, where it really does become about them two.
Right.
Which is so interesting.
You know, I think you could probably make the argument that like it lets him off the hook a little bit.
Yeah.
Because like in the movie, he falls into the like, I mean, part of it is like their influence on him.
Yes, that's true.
And their kind of ability to manipulate him.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it doesn't feel like it's lost to me. But watching Helen push Madeline down the stairs, I knew it was different, and I'm like, that makes sense though.
It makes sense.
It's a change that like absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
That's like very 1-to-1. I kill you, you kill me. We're very even.
Yeah.
There's
I mean,
something
what we're watching these two. It just, rather than splitting that responsibility.
Yes.
Because you need to have them. They're the ones that have to kind of have their.
I mean, I think
they all have their own,
in the movie,
realizations, but
in the movie, like we see, it's like a parallel with Madeline convincing Ernest to leave, and that's the thing.
Yes.
That like Ernest leaves.
Yeah.
He does it of his own free will. Like, she doesn't like threaten him or you're like. He chooses to leave because of her influence. And so I think it's like, it does parallel, like, that's the thing that she's getting, like, oh, I'm able to manipulate him into doing this for me.
Right.
Yeah. So there's something like, there's that element. But again, the musical being really a celebration of their, they upped the camp and the humor around it. Literally had a song where like, you know, Helen to Ernest in the beginning was like, oh, I love you. You're my person.
Yeah.
And then it's reprised at the end where Madeline was like, you know what? As much as you don't like it, I think we were meant to just like,
yeah, I think I might be your person.
I might be your person.
Yeah.
And not in a romantic, it's not like a romantic way.
But just like that's like, I've been thinking about you my entire life, and maybe in a rivalry sense, but isn't that what people who are each other's people do? They just think of each other all the time, and we've always been on each other's minds all the time.
This puppy.
Oh my gosh, he's like crawling under the chair. It's so cute.
He's so funny.
So yeah, and I actually really love that too, because it's like in the same way that they up the ante on a lot of the camp, where it's like the fall down the stairs. It's like an iconic scene in the movie.
Yes.
In the play, it is absurd. Just
is.
I mean, we'll get there, I suppose, but it's
we're there. I mean,
I just mean like I was gonna say, it's like that deserves every award ever.
Yes, it's gonna be
mentioned
sure.
a few times, but they had a few instances where a body double gets oh hey puppy, you get a body double gets switched out. So Madeline gets...
And they set it up pretty early,
They
too.
did in like the opening dance number, which we should also talk about in a minute. But the opening dance number, she comes out and then she's in this costume, and there's a really like very quick body switch that happens. And then she, like, whoever is portraying her does this crazy dance. And it's like, obviously not the same person.
It's not Meghan Hilty
It's
anymore.
not, yeah, right.
It's allowing her for like a quick change.
Yeah, and she does. She gets a quick change, and but they do a similar thing later on, where when she gets pushed down the stairs, they like have this altercation at the top of the stairs, gets slapped, falls.
Is he doing okay?
Yeah, he's okay. It goes
just check with his leash. Yeah. So he's not getting wrapped up in that chair.
So she gets slapped. She goes off stage. A body double comes back on and then gets pushed down. And it's this like slow motion, acrobatic tumble down the stairs. Incredible. Like it was
the choreography of it.
It was everything that
with lights, with sound, but like most impressively, whoever that performer was, like
just like slowly flipping around on like a double bar. It's like a gymnastics double bar, but curved and going down because it's like a staircase. Oh my God. It was absurd.
And it was long. I mean,
It's so long. And it's like when you have this wackadoo movie that's like so campy and over the top, this is taking that moment, which is an over the top, she falls down the stairs and breaks her neck, and it's like really intense, and falling into like a pile of limbs at the bottom of the steps, to have it turn into this like 2-minute like tumble down the stairs in slow motion.
Choreographed. It's just like a person doing it. It's wild.
So funny, and it's so impressive. Oh my gosh, is it cute? This puppy is so cute.
He's so cute.
He's
distracting.
God.
You're distracting.
Yeah, he distracted me.
What's up,
okay,
puppy?
But it's this tumble down the stairs, fantastic. Also, the fact that they do in the movie kind of have this little come to Jesus, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was jealous. And they have something similar, but to have that even turned up, you one up that by being like, oh no, we're actually meant to be together. It's almost making a joke of itself while also just being more itself.
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
it's more.
It's like more saturated.
Death becomes her. Yeah, it's more saturated.
Yeah.
It's a more saturated Death Becomes Her, and it's just such a brilliant way to do a musical, because you're also going to add music to it, and you're going to add dancing to it. Oh my gosh!
Yes. Well, and the thing is, like, okay, I've had problems where they'd like try to up the ante and things before, where they like do it in one direction. Mm-hmm. Like where it's like, oh, this is like this, and now the sentimentality is like really up, or just the absurdism is up without any of the heart, or just the really or just the violence or just the language, like and then it just like, it feels like it leaves the vibe where it's like, they have a couple moments of heightened sentimentality because it's not really about that. So they don't like do that.
Right.
Because they didn't have to like make a full love song.
Right.
For this show that's not really about that.
Yeah. But they could play up the mental breakdown.
Yeah.
They have a whole song about her, singing in the institution, the whole song where she's trying to convince Ernest, where she's a little wackadoo. She doesn't like being called crazy. Even just during the wedding, she interrupts it by like she parachutes into the wedding to like interrupt it, which is like totally not in the film at all. But
no,
it
lives in the world.
It lives in that world, especially in this kind of new version of the world that we're seeing.
Right. It's those questions like, how do we get the vibe, but do it in a way that works for the stage and not the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the questions you have to ask, not just how do we throw in cool stuff? You know what I mean? Like that's where I feel like some things go wrong, where it's like, oh, we're kind of like writing a different thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, no, this is an important moment. We don't have to change it. If this already works,
right?
You do have to change things. Like, we're not gonna be able to turn someone's head backwards on their body,
right?
Because that's just not physically possible. But there are ways to kind of fake
evoke
it,
that,
approximate that, or do there are stage magic and stage makeup things that like do the same, they evoke the same feelings without like being like, okay, we're watching Meryl Streep walk backwards with her head on the wrong way.
Right.
Like we could choreograph that kind of and dress them backwards, but it's not going to be that, it's not going to be successful.
It's not going to be successful. It's much
stage.
easier for them to do a wig trick and have that actor that collapse to the floor at the bottom of the steps, get up, fix the wig, make a choreographed movement that makes it look like they've twisted their head back on.
The way. Yep.
So
Smart.
good. Very smart.
Very smart.
Yeah.
And then there was some sort of magic contraption costume thing where like it looked like her head was like not attached to her body.
Oh, it was weird.
And I'm like, I don't know exactly how that works, but like,
and another smart thing, it was effective, and especially because it's like it's the moment before the blackout for intermission.
Yes,
that
so
her
we only get
head kind of falls. You only get like a second of it. You don't even get a chance to like inspect it.
Yeah,
and probably by design, right? It's like if you have too long to look at a magic trick, you're gonna figure it out.
Exactly.
And so it looks great. It's just like her head kind of like falls.
Like her head falls off of her body. It's like,
yeah. And you're like, oh my God. And then blackout.
Because there's a whole part of the movie too, where like her head is like, looks like it's like snapping off her body. Like they use a lot of CGI in the movie and you can't use CGI.
Yeah.
So where can we use amazing stage tricks?
Mm-hmm.
And where can we just like cut that and do something different with something that'll work?
Right.
Like, you can't push someone down the stairs on the stage.
Yeah.
So
it's not going to work.
It's not. You can't do it safely.
I know.
That's why this like over the top wackadoo choreography to fall down the stairs and not have like, you can't CGI a clump of body parts on the ground.
Right.
But you can have a really talented dancer / contortionist,
like look like they're just in a pile of bones. It was wild.
I was like,
where did you find this person? That was honestly so the most exciting part of the show for me. Really, was I was just like, it's like the chandelier of Phantom of the Opera. It's like that is the show-stopping moment. It's everything. It's the whole show for me.
Yeah,
and it really is. It's like distilled in that moment. I was like, that's it. That's what the whole show is.
And they gave us, well, okay. Speaking of I don't know what you're speaking of. I was tuning out. I was thinking of other things. But just like going back to your point from earlier, like we started discussing the opening number.
Yes.
It's not the opening number technically because there's...
No, right. There is an opening number with Viola Van Horn.
Who, if we hadn't mentioned... Okay, so we didn't even talk about the cast.
We didn't talk about the cast, no.
The cast.
Uh-huh. Excellent.
So the main two, Meghan Hilty and Jennifer Simard.
Fantastic.
I knew they were going to be. They are... I mean, Meghan Hilty is very well known, obviously, from her Wicked days on, from Smash.
Yeah.
Lots of... Very well known. Very good. Excellent.
Yeah. Very
Perfect.
funny.
Very perfect for this. I'm like doing it well. Jennifer Simard, not as well known, but very... I mean,
really excellent. And I didn't know her at all until we started watching videos of Once Upon a One More Time, the Britney Spears musical.
Mm-hmm. She's a really awesome.
She has an awesome rendition of Toxic. And it was that I was like, oh my God, did I want to see that? Did I miss it? Did I miss that show? Because maybe I would have loved that show. But it's so good to watch her sing Toxic. It's so good.
She's so good.
And so I was so excited to hear. So we already knew that they're like both fantastic.
And so going in, we knew those two actresses and we knew part of the music writing team.
Yes.
Because one of our favorite Instagrams of all time is Advent Calendar, where Joel Wagner and Julia, who is
like Mattingly.
You look up her name.
Okay.
Joel and Julia, right, during they don't do it. They did it for a few years, like fully, where like the first 25 days of December, just like an Advent calendar, they wrote a new holiday carol, and they were like hilarious and spoofs of other carols or other holiday things.
Julia Madison.
Madison.
Yeah. Mattison.
And so we've been obsessed with the two of them for a long time. Saw that she was going to be part of the music writing team.
Yeah.
And thought, okay, so we have these two powerhouse women and a woman who we know is writing some funny
and excellent music.
So
because it's not just funny, it's also like very good
music.
So we know at least she's co-writing at the very least. Really, really excellent stuff. And then we get there and it's also
Christopher
Sieber,
who I
plays
love.
Ernest. Fantastic.
Who is also another big Broadway person, Lord Farquaad, Shrek. Also, I knew him originally as the dad in whatever that Mary-Kate and Ashley. It's always like
Two of a Kind. Two of a Kind.
They all are like, it takes two of a kind.
Something like that. Two of a Kind.
I think Two of a Kind. I think that's what it was. But he was the dad on that. I remember I had recognized him from that because I saw him in a tour of La Cage years ago, and I thought he was so good.
Yeah.
And so I've been excited to see him ever since.
And he was
excellent. He's very, very good.
But then Viola Van Horn.
Yeah, Liesel
in the movie, played by
Isabella
Rossellini. Oh, she's so good. Isabella Rossellini, so good.
So good.
In that film.
And this was another change that I'm like, they didn't try to just like imitate Isabella Rossellini.
That's true.
But they had that character played by Michelle Williams
of Destiny's Child fame. Yeah, Destiny's Child / Broadway. She's done several shows.
Has she done several?
Yeah, I think so. Fela.
No, those were
the tours.
Broadway's was only.
Well, Chicago. She was in Chicago.
Chicago was, I think, the only Broadway.
But she's done other tours, is what I mean. She's done other, especially Broadway and Chicago stuff. Yeah. She's been around.
She's great. She was on Masked Singer.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
I think she was Lightning Bug, something like that.
Yeah.
No, not Lightning Bug. The bee.
The bee. No, the ladybug or.
She was an insect.
Yeah.
Flying insect of some sort.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a lightning bug.
I don't know. Because the bee was Gladys Knight was the bee, the queen bee. Okay. Yeah. Anyway,
I don't remember.
For another episode, Masked Singer.
There's not enough.
No story to be. There's no story.
Seen.
Yeah, no.
That's just
it's just fun. To watch the singing really only.
Yeah, I do a lot of skipping, but it's
skip
fun
everything
sometimes.
else. So so it's this excellent cast.
But instead of emulating Isabella Rossellini, they just have a similar like. Michelle Williams is in fantastic shape. She looks amazing.
She does,
and she has just a presence about her.
Yeah,
and they're just like, it seems like they're like, just be you and just be like powerful and in control. And she just did her version of it, and I thought it worked great. Where I'm like, I don't need it to be Isabella Rossellini per se.
It doesn't actually have to be an exact thing. I think I wish it would have been a little bit more grounded. There was just some things.
Sure.
She just moved a little too much for me, but that's, I don't know. It needs a director's eye to just be like, everything she did, like, it's not like she was bad.
Great.
She was fine.
Yes.
It's just there were some moments where it was like, you actually needed someone to be more specific and be like, don't move during that line.
Sure.
Because it's deflating a little bit of your power and you need to be a little bit more, set. But I mean, she sang great.
She sounded so good.
She was carried everywhere by the whole cast, just so good. And she like comes down on the emergency sign. It was really smart choices for like when Viola Van Horn gets to sing too. Cause she's not in all of the movie.
She's kind of the narrator.
She's a little bit, that she does these little, she's right at the beginning and then kind of basically halfway. Don't say I didn't warn you.
She started the show and ended the show.
Yeah, and then ended the show. Don't say I didn't warn you. It's an interesting, it's like such a good way to transition that to the stage because they also modernized a lot of it. There was, didn't take place in the 80s. It took place now. They had Venmo. It's Starbucks. They talked about modern things. And so to have kind of, what is that powerful Isabella Rossellini person today?
Right.
Who is that? Michelle Williams. It can be, it could be Michelle Williams.
Yeah. What's today's version of like an ageless beauty?
Yeah.
You're like, wow, you're not young, but you have so much youth.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
And she really does she looks fantastic.
Looks incredible.
Yeah. It's really, she sounds great. She looks great.
I thought she was great. So just like that, I mean, the cast is insane.
Is excellent. Yeah.
The dancers, I mean, they hired dancers that were like, crazy
dancers. And they all, I mean, the costumes were for these dancers are like, especially like right at the beginning and then later on too, as like Viola's henchmen. But it's like, it was just like stickers. That's what it looked like. It's like these body suits that just are mostly sheer, but
mostly
they have like,
with
like black swirls that just cover up some parts of the body. And I mean, it doesn't look like vulgar. No, but it's their bodies. And it's like, they all look so good. They are all in shape and they all dance beautifully.
I mean, they're incredible. It was
and they sound good.
Ensemble.
Yeah, it was really very impressive. And they're on the stage so much.
Yes.
Yeah, they are there the whole time. It kind of gave me Gentleman's Guide vibes in that sense.
Because one thing to keep going, we haven't even gotten to the opening number.
Oh, I know.
I think this could be a good transition because like they didn't shy away from like what is campy about musical theater.
Mm-hmm.
And so they like played into like these transitions where they're like, these like big grand, like musical theater, like dancing on and off to like do their scene transitions.
Yes.
And it works because they set up the show. And like in the movie, this happens too. We see a musical number.
Yes.
Meryl Streep sings her Broadway note. Like there's a musical number in the show.
Yeah.
And so like, great, we'll do our version of that on stage. You have to.
Yes.
Makes
of
sense.
Course. It would be stupid not to.
It was so.
It's a new song.
It's a new song, but it's clever. Where she's like talking about like, she's like, I'm obsessed with the male gaze. I'm obsessed with like men looking at me, which is like absolutely her character.
Her character. Mm-hmm.
So it's like setting up her character, but the song is like,
I do it for the gaze.
For the gaze.
And so brilliant because it's like this. It's the second song in the show. It starts the story, And it's like,
it starts the story, it sets up her character, but it's also telling you what the tone is.
What the tone is, because that's, the people who decided to produce this musical basically are doing it for gay men who love that movie because it's such a cult gay classic.
Absolutely.
So brilliant. I do it for the gays.
It's just this big song and dance, literally. I mean, like it's just like overly Broadway gay, which like that number in the movie is also
very much like
big
that.
and broad.
Yeah. And it's like she's like almost a Bette Midler type.
Well,
like
she literally becomes
literally becomes
Liza Minnelli in the song.
She does. She literally becomes
Liza.
Liza.
The first body double comes out.
Yes, she's Liza.
She's Liza, and then there's a body double who's backwards Liza dancing. It's very funny because she has to change to her other costume, which rips away into a Dorothy
costume. It's like, is it Cher into Dorothy or something?
It's just like a showgirl.
Just like
I don't
a
know
show.
if it's a specific
It looks like
reference.
one of the Cher ones, maybe.
I mean,
but it could
that
be.
big like showgirl headpiece, which could be Cher, sure. Very Bob Mackie.
Yes.
But like while her dancers are in rainbow and she's like has like a trans flag on the her costume that gets ripped away and she's just Dorothy.
Yes. Oh my God.
That's just the most cliche of references.
It's so funny. And it's so meta. It's like it's bringing us out and in. It's like doing both things. It's really a brilliant moment of that, all of kind of the planes of storytelling, like just connecting, where it's we've got on the surface, we have her talking about what Madeline likes. Madeline likes this attention, whether it's from gays or straights or whatever. She wants it, but also we're talking big picture, kind of just grandly what this is. And then the medium itself, we're in a show within a show. It's so brilliant and it's so smart.
I mean, it's very similar to what we talked about in Emperor's New Groove when we try to find a flaw with it. And you're like, there was the one moment I was like, no, because like they set it up. It's for this. It's like this outside moment where he's like doing this weird thing is like what brings the audience in.
Right.
It still keeps in the story. It's still part of the storytelling experience.
Right.
It does both at the same time. It's like addressing you as the audience. It's like that one's like for children. Like it's like grabbing the attention back of the children watching with like reminding us that it's silly and fun. Yeah. But also like saying something about the character. Like we can do all of it at the same time.
Right.
And it just like makes times where people try to throw in arbitrary silly things that don't connect to anything else just for like a joke's sake. Yeah. That's why things fall flat.
Right.
Where this one, it let us, I mean, it did so many things. It like helped the story without having to like. It
paid homage.
It wasn't like, it paid homage to the original. It lived in the world of the story and it let us sit back and be like, oh, we're not taking this seriously. Yeah. We're not meant to. Right.
We're not, or it's seriously in the kind of what we've been talking about, how it kind of it turns up the volume on it, right? Yes. It turns up the saturation. It's like, no, we're not taking it seriously. It's not a copy of the movie, but it's for you guys.
Right.
This is for you. This is going to be an homage like you've never seen.
You better deliver.
Yeah, that's like for real.
And in that song, it did. But I was like, you delivered in ways that aren't connected to the movie. So let's see how you do it in ways that are connected to the movie. Yes. And it did.
I think it really did.
Because it gave us like another thing that's successful, that makes these adaptations successful, is to take these moments that are so ingrained in our memory. Like we talked about the falling down the stairs. Yes. And paying particular reverence to them by either just like doing them exactly the same. Yeah. Which like when we talked about Pretty Woman,
eating the strawberries on the floor, the make out on the piano,
the box, like snapping the box
oh,
with the
snapping
necklace,
the box with the necklace and the laugh. Oh my God, yeah.
Like just taking those moments and either just like recreating them almost as exactly as possible, or giving you a line that is iconic and just slapping it right in the middle for everyone to be like, wow,
there it is.
And it's because it's fun. It's exciting when those things show up.
Right.
And, or to take it like the staircase scene and make it just something even crazier.
Yes. Because the other thing too is like, first of all, to see, because they combined two things. They did the iconically in the movie, she's like slipping down and she's gonna fall, and so she's like precariously teetering, and it's like an impossible position.
They
like,
do that, yes.
And they do that.
They
and
do
to see it happen
really
live, because it's like very obviously fake in the movie. It's just like, oh yeah, it's like a string, or she's being held up somehow. Here, to actually see someone like get somehow rigged
danger.
up.
I don't know. Like,
and they're like,
we didn't see how
we
it
didn't
happened.
see how it happened, and they're just like rigged up somehow that they're like, you know,
they're
gonna
like dangling over stairs and just like floating in the
just
air.
at a 45-degree angle on this top stair. Very, very cool. And then to turn that into the tumble
right
down,
into the
and
tumble.
it elevates and it increases those stakes just fly through the roof.
It's both reference and
an elevation,
and it's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Oh, and there were some great, I thought, recreations too, because it's like,
I wonder if that's the choreographer or like the fight choreographer. Like, if it is so, maybe a collaboration. I don't know. It is incredible.
So good. Oh, I'm going to think about that falling down the stairs for a long time.
Other like iconic moments that they brought in. I think like visually, the one that I was most curious about was when Helen gets a huge hole
in her
blasted in her stomach.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Like maybe they'll do something different. Like because we didn't have the full Madeline with her head backwards scene. Like
right. So maybe they'll do something else.
Maybe they'll do something a little different.
Yeah.
But after she gets shot, she walks back in, has a big hole in her stomach, and I'm like,
I was like, oh my God. And it's smoking. It's like there's smoke coming out of the hole.
It's cool. I'm like, I don't know what that
I don't know what it is,
or
like some kind of trick of the eye that made the hole look deeper than it is. I don't know, but it's good. It was really great. This whole and it's not like all the way through, admittedly.
Of course not.
But like that wouldn't make any sense, right?
Yes. So we couldn't see through her.
Yeah,
but it was like a black hole,
a big black hole.
Clearly looked like a. I mean, it looked like a hole.
Yeah, yeah. It was very cool.
And it happened so fast. And it was just like satisfying that she came out with a big smoking hole in her stomach. I just didn't expect them to go for it.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Oh, so cool. And a lot of the costumes, like the Viola Van Horn's, like the opening costume, and she like has the big, it's Liesel's second costume, I think, when she gets
Well, it's not. She's never in the first costume, which is in the movie.
I know in the movie that first costume is just
skirt,
the necklace is just like covered.
Brilliant.
Oh, it's so beautiful. But the second one where it's like the big collar, like the big like cobra collar.
Yeah.
Oh, so cool. But she had like an armor version of it. You know.
Yes, it was clearly like paying. I mean, like so much. I liked this about Beetlejuice too. Is like. They said, of course, let's bring in as much of the aesthetic as we can. The vial, it was like bigger, but it's like the vial with the dagger and the little egg that she opens up, and it's like so cool. They kept the aesthetic. They kept the pieces of the aesthetic the same, which I really appreciate that when that's such a big part of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of that cult experience is like, we love the way they dressed and the way like these props looked and the style of it. It's like
a lot of the costuming was, I mean, I just realized it too, that costume with her head the head falls off is a take on that like purple, kind of scarfy pashmina thing that Meryl Streep puts on when she's like in her bodysuit and goes out. It's like, that's what it is. Like that, a similar kind of.
Or at the end where they're like wearing those like big nets over their faces.
Yes, the big nets over their faces.
Big veils.
Yes. Oh my God. But they added in a lot of the lines too. And I mean, that script is excellent. I think in the film, it's really good. So there's a lot of really great opportunity to take advantage of those things, but it was not a copy. Like it was not a word for word copy of the script, which I also appreciated. But they really used masterfully some of these things. Like Madeline takes the potion, and then Viola says, "And now a warning." Now a warning. Like
so
such
good.
Classic
Very
Meryl
fun.
Streep line. Now a warning with an updated, do you take a Venmo? Because in the movie it's, do you take a check? Would you take Venmo? Which although one little inconsistency there, depending on how much that's going to be, it's going to be several payments on Venmo because it only lets you pay $2,500 per transaction. So if it's like, $1 million, she's going to be paying that over Venmo for the next 3 months.
That's stupid.
So
maybe rich people have better Venmo.
Yeah, maybe rich people have rich Venmo.
Who knows? Another change I thought about, which I think was just based on, I think it was a smart change too, is instead of like them ending up at a funeral for the character, just was the conversation with him at the cemetery.
I thought that was
so it's
really
the same
clever.
Same
vibe, and but you actually get to have him give his piece. And there's something really very satisfying, I think, about them being able to boo him.
Yes. Well, because they have a moment, they boo the priest in the in the funeral.
In the funeral, because he's like, he's found eternal life.
Life in the children he's left in the grandchildren.
And they're like, no, boo.
And they're like, oh, and they leave.
But here, like,
I'm obsessed with that.
It's like it's like they give it bait and switch because you think they're going to have like a little sweet coming together. They atone, and instead he's like singing about how he's found his person and his life is so beautiful and he's so happy, and just in the middle of his song they're just like, boo, no, and he just like gets up and leaves,
pushes it,
they
like
push him off the stage,
get out of here.
And it's so satisfying because it's like I was like, oh my God, are they gonna like have a friendship moment?
No, boo. And that's what I mean, like they don't try to like when I was talking about like they're not trying to like pick one element. They're not just like sticking with the sentimentality and upping that in a way that I'm like, but that's not it. That's not the story anymore. In fact,
they trick us by making us wonder if they're going to go back on it. Yes. And they're like, no, we know what this story is.
And I was obsessed with that choice. I mean, like for real.
Oh my God.
I was so excited when they booed him off the stage.
Me
I was
too.
like, yes, don't make this a sweet moment.
Absolutely perfect.
Yes.
It was absolutely perfect.
I love it when they do, because there's I mean, like they do that a couple times in this where they're like, we're going to do this thing that you're annoyed with usually when they make adaptations, and then we're gonna be like, no, just kidding. Yes. We're doing like the real good thing.
Yeah.
And I just love it. Like if they don't ever get sentimental, don't let them get sentimental, because that is a totally different vibe.
Right. Because
Like
even in the moment where they do have like the sentimental, it's like, oh, I think I might be your person.
That's about as much as they do.
That's as far as they go. And even then they're just kind of like, oh my God, leave me alone. Shut up. Yeah, I guess so. Like they don't ever fall into it because that's not what it is.
It's not what it is. Like it's there is a connection and a relationship there, but it doesn't have to be this picture perfect, like we don't have to see the ooey gooey, because that's not what it is.
Right.
They're not ooey gooey people.
Yeah.
They are determined, like they are going for what they want people, and they are kindred spirits that way.
Right.
They're like, no, we're like weirdly connected, but we're both so determined to do this thing and live this way, and they don't have to compromise it with each other.
Right.
But we don't have to make the story about how that's sweet and nice, because that's not also what it is.
Not what the story is. Yeah. They really kept the spirit of it, which is really lovely.
I was blown away. I mean, and they kept their promise. Like they kept it like way over the top, flashy, gay, fun, campy. And so like when they do some of those transitions where it's just like the dancers being like la 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 la, like very very like old school musical theater, it works.
It works, yeah.
It feels like this like pretty facade on top of like this like the ugly, like it's playing off like, because Broadway is that shininess over like ugliness, whatever. Yeah. So it just all works together. They're using Broadway as the medium, but not changing the story to make it fit.
Right.
They're just using the medium to tell the story in the way that medium asks for it.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah. I loved it too. I was so impressed. Let's do ratings.
Ratings, sure. Story.
5.
That's 5.
It's a 5.
Know. It's so
a 5.
So clear. It's so simple.
Yeah.
It's not overcomplicated. And within the storytelling, they tell us that we can chill out a bit.
Yes. I think it's so good. It's a 5 for me. 5.
It's just 5.
Next, technical.
I'm going to give it a 4.
I was going to do 4.5.
Okay.
Just for some costume things.
Yeah, I mean, similar.
Because there was just...
It is Broadway previews.
It is Broadway preview.
Broadway,
and it was just mostly for costumes.
Broadway.
There was some
run, I guess.
Mobility problems that the two leads had. They kind of were a little bit swallowed by a lot of their extravagant dresses. And I just wanted something a little more streamlined.
Yes.
Something very like Goldie Hawn in the movie. Right. Very... form-fitting, and these were like...
The thing is, like, it can be a different version for like a different actress, but literally, like, it looked a little big on her.
Yeah.
And then there was a big train, which is fine, but then she had to carry this big train.
It was
half of Act 2.
It was a lot of carrying her dress around, and it just got in her way. It looked like it got in her way.
Yes.
And so that was like, okay.
Right.
Yeah. So that's for me, it's 4.5.
Yeah. And, you know, being the pre-Broadway, like there's still, I mean, for it being a pre-Broadway, I've seen shows with like lots of problems.
Much worse.
And
for sure.
It's pretty tight.
It's pretty good.
Like that choreo.
It's pretty solid.
Dumb. It's so good.
Yes.
It's great. I loved it. And the costumes overall worked great.
I liked the vibe. I thought it was a really good update.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then rewatch value.
I mean, a 5.
It's a 5. I would see it.
I literally like texted my friend. I texted.
Do you want to go?
I texted Joe, who had seen it, who we did our Hadestown.
Yeah, our Hadestown guest.
I texted him because he had seen it already. And I'm like, because he had talked about going again. I'm like, I'd go again. I'll go again.
100%. I would go.
I mean, just like that movie. I've seen a handful of times, like
many times.
So many
it's
times.
so good to rewatch, and it keeps that same. I would see it many times.
We rewatched the movie just to like give a refresh before it, and I was like, "Wow, I'd watch that. That's great.
It's
great
good.
Movie.
It's so good.
So fun.
It's so fun. It's so funny.
Good.
Such good moments. Oh man, it's good.
So dumb. So good.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid rating there.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's real good. Superlatives.
So Oscar moment.
Oscar-worthy moment.
I mean, can it be it's just the fall, right?
It's the fall. I mean, it's gotta be the fall. It was, oh God, that fall.
It was so brilliant. I can't even handle it. It was so good.
I wonder if there's a video of it somewhere. I just want to watch it again. It's so funny, and it's so well done, and it's like the way that it lines up with the sound effects, and
it's one of those things where I'm like, is it timed and they just like happen at the same time, or is it like cues based on the actors, or is the actor waiting for a cue from this or this?
I don't know. It sounded like it was with the music. It sounded like it was with music.
Sure, yeah.
Because there's like music playing while it's happening. It sounded like it was all with, oh man.
And just like the strength and ability to do what they were doing.
Yes.
Because it took so long.
It took so long, and they're
The staircase is
slowly
huge.
flipping over and then knocking their head and then flipping over more.
I mean, like, we don't have to just go into detail.
So
like, just go
funny.
see it because it is so crazy.
I've never seen anything like that.
But we were all like, wah, wah, ah, like the whole time.
Yes.
Just like everyone's a bit, just like making sounds and like,
Yes.
like I could have watched it for 20 minutes straight. It was so,
I mean, it's like on
interesting.
par with like Megan Mullally pointing in Dix the Musical. It's like you
my
could just like
God.
watch that just forever. Just like, no, follow my finger. But it's like, it's that kind of like, I could just watch that happen.
so good.
Like that could have been like a 5-minute instead of just 2, you know?
And I mean, the timing of it was so good. And I loved that they just like stretched it out. And we just watched it happen. And it was like humorous and grotesque and like impressive and like shocking and it just so all the things all at once. And it was very fun and exciting.
Oh,
I loved it.
I loved it.
I think it just has to be the Oscar.
I think it is. Unearned moment.
Unearned. I have okay. So do you have something?
I think I just have, just like one little, there's a scene when they bring Ernest back to the mansion after they've knocked him out and they're going to give him the potion. And there's a whole scene where they
They take him to
they take him to Viola's
mansion.
Yes. And the gatekeeper doesn't let them in, but they get in anyway.
Okay.
And Viola's there as if she's in on it. Like it was just like a scene that did not need to be there.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a nothing scene that didn't need to be there.
The when they were trying to get in.
Yeah. Because it's like, well, they were supposed to be part of the club, so they would,
That's why I did think
because
that
it was
too.
like
Okay, you're right.
she's getting ready for the ball,
really-
the masquerade thing or whatever they're
They could
doing.
cut that
They
thing.
just could have cut that
I
scene.
think they did it as a change. It was as a scene change.
I think you're right, but and they just need to fill it with something else.
You're right.
And not with like a no, you can't come in. Oh, well, we'll just throw him in the open window over there. And I'm like, well, why did you even need to do it?
So
all of
you're
that?
right. Yeah. Because it just reads as a scene change.
Yeah, 'cause
and
I was like-
it did confuse me. Mm-hmm. I'm like,
Wait,
aren't they invited to the thing?
right. They're supposed to be
That was the
part
whole
of the
thing.
group. The
And
whole
then,
thing
like,
is like anybody who's
Viola
taking
wasn't
this.
like mad about it anyway.
No, like
so
Viola was
why
just like
would-
there. I just wasn't sure about what that scene was supposed to do other than be a scene change.
I'm wondering if it's like, well, I guess my theory, because there's a whole bit about Viola being like, my whole point of this was for it to be like geniuses and artists and people that could like really do good work forever.
Yeah.
But the other guy is seeking out celebrities. So maybe like he has his own, maybe there's like something kind of there where they have like different missions.
Yeah,
and maybe
maybe.
that was supposed to be like but like not made to be that important.
Yeah. It's just kind of not.
It's unnecessary.
It's a nothing.
Even then,
yeah.
it is
just
unnecessary.
It doesn't help anything. Yeah. So that was mine. That's my unearned
That's fair.
moment.
I just have a couple like small things where I'm like, there is one moment when the three women get to sing together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great and lovely.
Yeah.
And you know how much I love three women sing together,
Yeah.
as we've already talked about. Something about three women's voices together, it just always works for me. And they only had one moment of that in the whole
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
I think that is maybe a missed opportunity and could
Absolutely.
have happened at least once more.
Yeah.
I don't mind those things getting cut or because it's like because of story. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
that's just something I like.
Yeah.
The other thing is we talked about the costumes of the ensemble being just these like just their bodies with it's like the skin tight
Yeah.
suits. Two of the actors had pants though.
Yes. Yes. You're right.
And I was like, why do they have pants?
Yeah.
What's going on with the pants? Were they just trying to like mix it up?
Maybe. I noticed that too.
But it stuck out every time there was someone with pants, especially when only one of the two people with pants was on stage.
Yes.
I was like, was that guy self-conscious?
Yeah.
And I don't think he would have been. I just like, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
When I saw that, like,
I have to talk to my union rep about this costume. I'm not comfortable in it. I need some pants.
okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Like everyone is wearing these
I caught that
suits.
too. Yeah.
I'm like, why are there people in pants?
Yeah.
So that I thought was a misstep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was funny. My boss even pointed it out to me. She's like, I was watching the curtain call and they're wearing these things, but then there's pants. I'm like, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
weird.
That's
Crazy.
funny.
But those are very small things.
Yeah.
Very, very small things.
Yeah. I mean, even my scene's a pretty small thing. And
Yes.
it's like, it feels like a scene in a pre-Broadway run where it's like, we don't know what this scene's going to be. And we added a scene in because we need a scene change.
Yeah.
Something needs to happen behind the curtain. We just don't know what this is yet.
Right.
And so I have faith that they'll repair that. That's an easy one.
That's easy.
Yeah.
I don't have faith that they'll repair it because those small things, if that's the only thing,
they get
it's going to
forgotten.
be it's going to be easy to miss.
Yeah, that's too bad.
It's
Especially
more
if
of
it
a
works.
hassle to fix it.
Especially if like people laugh at something because there's like she has a
there's
joke and
jokes.
it's funny and I don't know. That would be a priority for me. I hate
gets
it.
in the way of storytelling.
Yes, we've talked about that for sure. Yeah.
I think adding in jokes sometimes is a big detriment to a story. It can be.
Yeah.
Because you like the joke, but it doesn't have anything to do with it. Just like
I mean,
when they
jokes
add
are as much as
songs-
children. You know, you have to be ready to.
Did you say jokes are as much as children? What did you just
They're
say?
as much children as anything else in a story. You have to kill
kill
your darlings, right?
Yes,
you
kill
know,
your darlings.
Kill your darlings. They're as much darlings. So it's like the joke
did-
also has to go.
Yep. I have in my past life, I've been part of like new musical workshops and there have been brilliant songs that I've watched get cut from things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why?
That's the best song in the show. It's like it's some work for the story.
I mean,
though.
I've literally seen it where the best song in the show gets cut. They're like, that's a brilliant song. It is not the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is so strong. That is a totally different show.
Yeah.
And being in that situation, I'm like,
Yeah.
they're right.
You're right. Yeah. 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 What's our next one? Oh, best song. What's our favorite song?
Ooh, best song.
There were some good ones. I thought it was pretty
know.
catchy. This one, I don't know if I would necessarily come away like humming all of it, I guess, but it is,
There's some earworms for sure.
There's some
though.
earworms. Yeah. It's good. I liked it.
I mean, like, I have to say, there's just a song that they're like, okay, two belty ladies, belt as high at each other as you can. And I'm just watching them. I'm like, this is who we need for a revival of Sideshow.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's like a similar vibe. It's like that show's version of I Will Never Leave You or Who Will Love Me As I Am.
Yeah.
But where they're just like singing. I don't even remember what the song was about.
It's like right after they, Viola pushes Ernest off the roof.
So when they're like deciding,
they're like, oh my God, we're together. Yeah.
But they're just like, I mean, their voices are wild. And so they're just like belting and singing to the rafters.
It's
like
the Sideshow revival we all needed. Yeah.
there has not
For
been
real.
a good one yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good song.
He's getting bored.
Yeah, he is. Don't do that.
That's not on the.
It's not for you.
Not on your leash. Not on your leash, but you got a whole rope.
I think my favorite song was when I guess I'm stuck between two. I liked Helen's song to Ernest about like we'll run away together. And
Very fun.
she's like, we're gonna murder her, and it's like she's like la 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 la. She has like the little
Oh, she's
she's
wild.
so
She is
funny,
nuts.
but that felt very connected for me to the one that she sings when she's just like under a spotlight at the asylum.
Well, it's like a combination of like her like we're in love, but also I'm crazy. Like
yes.
she's like those two versions of herself.
Oh man,
that
it's
just like
so
she's fully
funny.
realized.
Yes, it's so funny.
La 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 la. And then later she's like, "Why aren't you la la lying with me?"
Yes, it's so funny.
It's so dumb. I love it so much.
I loved it. I thought that was my favorite song. I think it's so funny.
Very, very funny.
I think it's so funny.
That song is great.
Yes. Best
reference.
Reference, yeah. Best reference from the movie. I won't give it to the stairs because we already did that.
No, that's
I think I really loved that the last scene takes place like on the roof, and they like brought in like the cathedral like
fun.
backdrop. It's like to bring that aesthetic in. It's like a lot of the aesthetic generally, but that I think really, I don't know, it grounded it for me. I liked that it was on the roof of that cathedral again.
great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to say to that, I guess. Yeah, you're right. It's good. I did. Like that was like weirdly exciting. I do remember being like, look at
we're on the roof. Yeah.
I don't know why that was exciting, but you're right. It was. And I think the thing that really solidified it for me was that boo at the end, where they referenced the boo.
God, yes.
Because it's a reference, but also it's like such a great, like you're just like watching them boo this like old man who's singing this sweet song, and they're just being, I mean, it's so good. I'm like, you're right. Yes, they just boo him. I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my favorite. I think it just like, after all of it, I'm like, and you ended, you did it.
Yeah.
You crushed it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that boo. It was, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then best change.
Best change.
Where they,
I mean, I think Helen being
the one to push. Yeah.
It's a pretty strong
I think it's pretty
change.
strong. Yeah.
It is, again, it's streamlined. It's just streamlined. Mm-hmm. It makes sense that Helen would push her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, streamlining so much of it, I think maybe it's getting too far into it or giving too many things the award, but it's like Madeline doesn't have that like young lover. That's not what pushes her over. It's Helen that pushes her over, not the young lover that pushes her over the edge.
Sure.
It's Helen pushes Madeline down, not convinces Ernest to do it. And it's really about them two making contact with each other. And I think that's like the best change because it only reinforces the point of the film.
Yeah. I mean,
and that story generally.
It focuses it on the relationship that the story's about.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good.
It's excellent. Highly recommended. Go see it.
It's fun. It's gay. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's over the top.
Let's wrap it up.
Great.
I have to pee.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode.
Wait, I have another 20 minutes
of Two Grooms, One Plot. Follow us anywhere that you get your podcasts. Follow us on the YouTube. You get to see our awesome outfits. I am Dreamin' Denim. We're both a little Western today.
Yeah, we're both a little Western today.
Weirdly. And also we had a puppy today, so take a look. Thank you to Chicago Podcast Studio, and follow us and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. I'm Pavi Prochko, and remember, immortality is not all it is chalked up to be.
Yep. And I'm Colin Funk, and remember, you don't have to be sentimental. You could just boo the old guy.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Two Grooms, One Plot, a Pavitas Productions project, hosted by Colin Funk and Pavi Prochko. This podcast was produced by Chicago Podcast Studio. Our opening cartoon was created by Gloriu, and our theme song was composed by me, Pavi Prochko. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite listening platform. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Two Grooms, One Plot for updates on new episodes and behind-the-scenes content. If you have any feedback, comments, concerns, or kudos, you can email us at twogroomsoneplot@gmail.com. Please rate and review us wherever you can. It would help us out a bunch. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.